Hello, this is Duncan reporting for MG Stories. And if you think the weekend reporting was a bit short, that's because the weekend was a bit short as well. And I've had lots of messages that the news got out, but in case you didn't hear it on the grapevine, I had an accident in the car. Well, not an accident, a crash. Sounds much more like racing when you have a crash, not an accident. So yes, it was the first race. I got through qualifying okay, that was on the report. But the first race of the weekend was on Saturday morning. It was early, it was 8 o'clock, so I'd had my coffee, but maybe not breakfast. Maybe I should have had breakfast. There's lots of questions of things I should have done to prepare myself better, which is part of the learning. But suffice to say, the car took a whack into the tyre wall on the first lap of the first race. So big learning there. And it's got some front end damage, and I'm going to show it to you. I promised myself that these stories would be the good and the bad. So it's not all just positive. You're going to see the bad as well. So if you love MGs and you get upset by a bit of bent metal, perhaps tune out now and go and watch some lovely MG motoring videos, because this one is looking a bit gnarly. So you can see at the front here, we've got front end damage on this corner. The front valance is now broken into many pieces, but this front corner here took an impact. And suffice to say, this wing is gone, and there's obviously other body panels and grille and all that kind of stuff that will need to be repaired. Structurally, MGs are built on what they call a monocoque chassis, which means there isn't a separate chassis that the body gets lowered onto. The chassis is actually part of the shell, the build of the car. But there is a notion of chassis rails. So there's actually a rail system, and the rail at the front hosts the engine, and then the rail actually continues down towards the back of the car. So the first thing that we noticed, there was a crease in the rail as it passed behind at the back of the suspension, and where the brake line came across that rail, there was a little bit of marking there, and that marking had moved by an inch. So that whole front end has been pushed back by at least an inch. And then the other superficial one is on this part of the engine here. Me and Carl have taken this radiator out a few times, and there's a piece of plate metal here that really just hosts. It really doesn't do much at all. It's really just to host air coming through to there, and it's normally like a good way out of the way over there, and now it's pressed hard up against this catch can here, so we know the whole thing has moved that way. The whole thing, this is obviously meant to be perpendicular to that piece of the car, so we know that that's moved back. And then the actual most telling bit is, you can't see it very well, but there's a pulley wheel down there that has the crank on the other end of it, and the steering rack that goes across there has whacked up against it, and the engine ran for at least a few seconds when that had happened. So what that means is that as well as us pulling the engine out for the straightening of the car eventually, we have to take a good look at the engine there as well. Jody and Chris Hobie were musing over it, and I was already thinking that myself, because you don't know what's happened inside the engine as a result of that whacking. So all of this engine is going to be coming out it'll come out anyway in prep for it going to get the thing straightened out, and we'll take a good look at that engine and maybe pop open the underside of it and have a look at, make sure everything is in good order there, because even a millimetre out could be catastrophic to the engine. There's a big piece of metal that goes through the bottom middle of the engine that hosts the pistons as they go in the circular motion to drive the engine. That's called the crank. And we found out the other day that the crank that I've got is worth about $6,000. So if that's damaged, then this guy will be a bit sad. So we have to look out for that. But anyway, that's the kind of thing you have to do to make sure that you don't think you've fixed it all. You then go to the next race weekend and it turns out it's not fixed, and you've then broken your engine even further. So TLC is the order of the day. And yeah, that's about it. So we have to work out the plan of how it gets fixed. I'm sending out lots of thanks to people around me, both at the racetrack at Tremblant. There was offers of help and straightening stuff. My friends and loved ones in the Montreal MG Car Club have already stepped forward. I'm having people offer up that there might be a car an MG that's getting scrapped, and there might be some pieces on that. I've got even race buddies who are remote. My love extended to Russ and Christy, who I've mentioned before. Christy is nuts on MGs, and that extends to racing as well. So the word is that Christy is preparing me an MG care package to help me with the recuperation of the wee beastie. So lots of love to you, Russ and Christy, and of course to my family. It was awesome having them there for the weekend, but we ended up being spectators and cheering on Simon Tomlinson and others, and Bert and Michelle and Eric and others that were still racing, and we did have a good time, but it was definitely a few shades short of what it could have been. So yes, more to follow. I guess this triggers off a whole new MG Stories series with bringing this back into good shape. Luckily, bought extra paint, so we've got some paint that we can use, and we'll take it from there. But as you can see, the car's looking a bit sad because one of its eyes is pointing at the floor. But we will soon have it back in good shape and on track again. Yeah, so lots to do there. Body panels to get, straightening to do. I've already been put onto Agop, an Armenian guy in Laval who's evidently a genius at this kind of stuff. He's worked on Neil's car already and does some amazing work. So I've just got off the phone with him, and I'll be scheduling to meet up with him. But all that's to follow. For now, taking a bit of a break, and we're scooting off for a little bit. But I can think about the plan of bringing this back to life. So, with that, this is Duncan for MG Stories. Sad moments, but we're already looking up. Back to the studio.